I am Frances Gray Smith, called Fannie. I have had a long and eventful life since my birth in 1782 of Wilkes County, North Carolina. My father was Samuel Gray and my mother Rachel Sales. My father and uncle actually served in the North Carolina militia in the American Revolutionary War. In about 1810, we migrated to Middle Tennessee, settled in Bedford County. In 1812, I met and married my husband, a master joiner and a carpenter, Francis Smith. He was called Frank by his friends and family. Frank still lived in Bedford County when we married, and he lived in Shelbyville, to be exact, and that is where our firstborn son, our first, was born, William Martin Smith. In 1814, Frank was mustered into service, and he was called to be first sergeant in Captain Andrew Patterson's unit. They traveled by flatboats down the Cumberland River, down Mississippi River, all the way to New Orleans, right before that deadly skirmish with the British. Why, in January 8th, 1815, they were to fight the fiercest battle of their lives. Frank's unit lost 22 men that day. Luckily, Frank and others that survived were discharged in May of 1815, and he returned back home to Middle Tennessee. He took all his savings and pay that he earned, and he went to the village of Fayetteville, and he bought 2 lots of land. Now, Fayetteville is where my sister Sally and her husband Joel Commons lived. On one lot was a log house that was briefly occupied, and on the other lot he began setting up his shop. He then, in 1820, started building a 2-story frame house for us. He built all the provisions for that home, except the hardware and the glass and the nails. While the furniture inside that home, not only was it useful, but it was elegant in my mind. That's where we reared our 6 children. Now, I was a mature woman when I wed Frank, and my mother had taught me all of the household duties, so I was well aware of how to run a household. Why, I knew how to spin cotton, flax, wool. I knew how to weave cloth. I knew how to make all our clothes. I made our bed linens. I sewed a mighty fine seam. I also was a skilled cooker, and I made candles, and I made our own soap to wash all those clothes. Our son William, he followed in his father's footsteps. He also was a skillful carpenter, and he built a lot of houses here in Fayetteville. While even in the inside, he did the molding around the trim. He built the staircases. He built the mantels. He was a master at the lathe, and he built furniture as well. He lived with us for quite some time. Folks around here reckon he was going to always live with us there for a bit, but it all worked out, for he met a lovely girl, Emma Lynn Kuntz. She was here visiting her father's kinfolk. They married, and they were blessed with 2 children, Denaria Jane and little Hugh Douglas. In 1854, however, the cholera epidemic struck Fayetteville, and Emma Lynn and Denaria Jane perished. Poor little Hugh Douglas, he was just a wee lad of 2. His grief-stricken father and just didn't know what to do, and it befell upon me to help raise Hugh. Of course, I was of advanced age, but I was strong and happy to do so. And Hugh, he was such a great help to his aging father and ancient grandmother during occupied Fayetteville. Can you imagine how sad I was when I had to start sewing his little uniform to wear in the Confederate Army? For he was soon to be 13 and serve. I was when that Confederate War ended in 1865. And he went on to be a master merchant in Nashville, Tennessee. Frank died in 1868, and I soon followed in 1871, just past my 90th birthday. Mr. Wallace from the Observer, he said that I fulfilled the important missions and relations of life, such as a wife, a mother, a neighbor, and a Christian, worthy to be imitated by all. Such a fine compliment. Thank you for hearing my story.